terrible night. But when he got to the place, the gate was closed. Usually around Indian houses there's a wall with a gate. And when the weather is really bad and no one is expected, then the gates are closed and everyone retreats inside. So still, he was determined to visit his girlfriend. So somehow or other he climbed up the wall and he fell down the other side and he got all cut up and, he was a mess. And of course, when the people of Chintamani's household they found him and they brought him inside and he was like, he was a mess, all full of mud and cut, bleeding, And Chintamani took one look at him and said, if you took this determination, to perform sinful activities and turned it towards devotional service of Kṛṣṇa, you would be the greatest devotee. Whether she was speaking sarcastically or out of her own realization of devotional service, who knows. But somehow or other this struck him very profoundly, and he changed his ways. He left everything and he hit the road and he went to Vrindavan and he became a great devotee. And then he used to sing these wonderful songs. And Kṛṣṇa was so attracted by these songs that he would come personally and listen to them. And then Bilvamangala would try to catch him, and he would always slip away. This is Kṛṣṇa. When a devotee is never tired of executing devotional service, and is always engaged in Kṛṣṇa conscious activities, constantly relishing the transcendental mellows in relationship with Kṛṣṇa, he is called perfect. The perfectional stage can be achieved in two ways. One may achieve this stage of perfection by gradual progress in devotional service, or one may become perfect by the causeless mercy of Kṛṣṇa, even though he has not executed all the details of devotional service. There is the following nice statement in the 3rd canto, 15th chapter, verse 25 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, describing a devotee who achieves perfection by regularly executing devotional service. A person who is freed from the false egotism of material existence, or an advanced mystic, is able to enter into the kingdom of God known as Vaikuntha. Such a mystic becomes so joyful by constant execution of the regulative principles of devotional service that he thereby achieves the special favor of the Supreme Lord. Yamaraj, the mighty superintendent of death, is afraid to go near such a devotee. So we can imagine the potency of advanced devotional service, especially when devotees sit together and engage in talking of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those devotees express their feelings in such a way that they automatically melt with ecstasy, and many transcendental symptoms become manifested in their bodies. Anyone desiring advancement in devotional service must follow in the footsteps of such devotees. So this is something that's very rare and not often experienced by the average person. Because even in India, we find that the discussions of philosophy and pastimes of Kṛṣṇa are somewhat dry. And this is because people do not hear, or they do not discriminate between ordinary devotees and perfectly pure self-realized devotees. Because self-realized devotees are extremely rare, people are unacquainted with the actual qualities of a self-realized soul. And even if they meet a self-realized soul, they can't recognize him. They usually just appoint some functionary, some ecclesiastical designated person as a priest. But ecclesiastical designations are not the same as actual self-realization. I mean, we often see devotees who are even given the title of guru and so on, but who then later on they fall down, or they have some other difficulties, or they become involved in politics, or too attached to raising money, or initiating lots and lots of disciples, and so they compromise the principles, and so on and so on and so on. So we see a lot of unqualified people taking the post of guru or teacher and leading discussions on the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. And because of this, then the devotees don't feel the ecstatic waves of emotion within their hearts that are generated by the actual experience of authentic rasa. You see? And because they don't feel this, then their hearts don't melt with ecstasy, and they don't express or feel the symptoms of ecstatic emotions, which is called sattvika bhava. Sattvika bhava is described here as tears in the eyes when hearing the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa, or the goosebumps and the hairs standing on end when seeing the Lord's form, or dancing in ecstasy, or simply hearing about the Lord, how his wonderful qualities and his wonderful activities are all done for the benefit of his devotees. So when we think of how kind the Lord is, and how sweet his pastimes are, and how wonderful and satisfying the relationship between the pure devotees and the Lord are, then automatically our heart becomes softened, and we start to think, oh, how wonderful Kṛṣṇa is, how wonderful God is. I only want to associate with him eternally, because then I'll be happy. I won't have to associate with this material world and suffer all these different embarrassing material incidents. So the key to attaining this stage of devotional ecstasy is to associate with and take instruction from, hear from, the self-realized souls whose hearts are filled with love for Kṛṣṇa. And then by their intonations of transcendental sound vibration, we will get direct realization of Kṛṣṇa's actual position. Therefore, we always recommend that people hear from our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupada, watch his videos, read his books. Reading books is also hearing. And if we do this and we associate with a pure devotee as much as possible, then we will gradually come to this realization of what bhakti rasa is actually about. That's the goal. So Prahlad Maharaj said that no one can attain the perfectional stage of devotional service without bowing down before exalted devotees. Learned sages like Markandeya Rishi attained perfection in devotional service simply by executing such regulative principles of service. For example, it is said in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that the most powerful substance in the three worlds is the water that has washed the lotus feet of a pure devotee. And that when devotees take this substance and sprinkle it on their heads and on the heads of their family members and associates, that this acts very powerfully to remove all contamination of material existence. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is not based on ritual. So they don't mean exactly, that everybody has to do this, although it's not a bad idea. But what it means is that one should be at least willing to take shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, and to accept those lotus feet, the service of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, as their aim in life. See, if one aspires to this station, if one aspires to this position of being a servant under the lotus feet of a pure devotee, then he's always protected from the waves of material existence by constant engagement in transcendental devotional service. See? Just like ourselves, somehow or other, we're so fortunate that we got direct service to Śrīla Prabhupada. Well, you might say, well, what do you mean direct service to Śrīla Prabhupada? You never traveled with Prabhupada, you never were Prabhupada's servant, personal servant, you weren't a temple president or a member of the GBC, you didn't have any big position in ISKCON, and you didn't, you didn't do any big service like building a temple or collecting lots and lots of money. What are you talking about? How can you say you're engaged in the direct service? Well, we are following Śrīla Prabhupada's instructions by preaching all over the world via internet. And this was actually Śrīla Prabhupada's direct instruction to me that I should do this.